Let's now begin this bulletin by telling you about the protests that have swept the United States. Mass protests continued across the United States for the 7th consecutive night over the killing of an unarmed black man named George Floyd at the hands of a white police officer in the city of Minneapolis. Let's get you some of the latest updates on what is happening currently in the U.S. on ground. U.S. cities remained under curfews at levels not seen since riots that broke out following the 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. The National Guard has been deployed in 23 states and Washington, D.C. as well to help the police force. The U.S. Justice Department has also directed the Bureau of Prisons to send riot control teams to help manage these protests. Protesters continue to demand that all officers involved in Floyd's death be charged immediately. Currently, only one officer, Derek Chauvin, who was the one who was kneeling on Floyd's neck, has been charged with third-degree murder. Let's now begin by telling you about what's happening in the capital, Washington, D.C. The protests, which were largely peaceful, erupted after tensions rose between demonstrators and the military police near the White House grounds. Police used tear gas to drive back protesters who gathered outside the White House. Several protesters were pushed to the ground as police moved aggressively towards the demonstrators. This advance came just moments before the U.S. President Donald Trump appeared in the Rose Garden, where he announced that he was deploying thousands of soldiers to stop this violence.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
In New York City's Times Square, hundreds of protesters staged a die-in calling for justice. Demonstrators lay on the city's sidewalks to recreate the image, chanting, "I can't breathe," which were Floyd's last words. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo has called for a national ban on excessive force by the police, announcing a curfew in New York City. In fact, New York's iconic Empire State Building turned dark to honor the memory of George Floyd. The city of Los Angeles witnessed a 12-hour overnight curfew, which was the harshest that the city has seen since the riots of 1992. The California National Guard has deployed 1,000 members to Southern California to assist with law enforcement.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! See what's right!
Got the aerial shot of this as well.
This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like!
In Minneapolis, where it all began, men at the George Floyd Memorial recreated his deadly arrest to raise awareness. A white man was seen lying on the ground as the three black men pretended to sit on top of him.
What you seen? A police officer sitting comfortably, not willing to get off this man, not asking him. When he says, "Sir, say you can't breathe."
I can't breathe.
Say you can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
Say you can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
Come on now. And bystanders are watching this. While this is being an example of America.
Meanwhile, as protests raged across the country, George Floyd's brother, Terrence Floyd, urged protesters to remain peaceful. Speaking to supporters, Terrence encouraged people to use their voices and do it another way by voting.
What's the name? George Floyd! Y'all not saying it loud enough. Let's fix
Y'all right. Let's do this another way. Let's stop thinking that our voice don't matter and vote.
There you go.
Not just vote for the president, vote for the somebody else to tell you who's who.
Yes, sir.
Educate yourself and know who you're voting for.
In a rare political statement, NBA legend Michael Jordan has joined the outrage and the protests over the death of George Floyd. Widely considered as the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan has often been criticized for his usual reluctance to speak out on political matters, especially when compared with the activism of other NBA stars like LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But on Sunday, the NBA team that Jordan owns, Charlotte Hornets, released a statement on behalf of the six-time champion in which he said that he was deeply saddened and truly pained and plain angry. George Floyd was a black American man who died in Minneapolis last week after a white police officer named Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for more than 8 minutes, strangling him nearly. The death has now sparked protests across the United States, and many sports stars of color have joined the chorus, including tennis's Naomi Osaka and Coco Gauff, and six-time F1 champion Lewis Hamilton. Jordan said that he stands with those calling out the ingrained racism and violence towards the people of color and called on Americans to work together to find answers. He went on to say, and I quote, "I don't have the answers, but our collective voices show strength and the inability to be divided by others. We must listen to each other, show compassion and empathy, and never turn our backs on senseless brutality. We need to continue our peaceful expressions against injustice and demand accountability. Our unified voice needs to put pressure on our leaders to change our laws, or else we need to use our vote to create systemic change. Every one of us needs to be part of the solution, and we must work together to ensure justice for all." Those are the words of NBA superstar Michael Jordan.